Hello, anyone watching this. Thank you for watching. Um, I'm Jake. If you don't know me, you probably are if you're watching. This is a new video series I am starting right now called Mind the Gaps, where I talk about all sorts of stuff, really. So I'm kind of sick today, and so if I sound kind of weird, that's why. And I don't know why I got a little, I don't know if I'm delusional from the sickness or what exactly it is, my less abandoned that has me deciding that I'm just gonna start doing this. But yeah, I've wanted to do something kind of like this for a while, and I realized that just pull the band-aid off. Don't worry about professionalism or high production quality or anything. If you know me, that's not really my style, anyways. So yeah, the idea of this is sometimes it'll just be me talking, might be me with other people sometimes, but the idea of mind the gaps is just that. Yeah, talking about things that are in between. I might get a little bit more into what I mean by that, but yeah, just what I've been thinking about, maybe something I've been reading, and what I've been thinking about that, and not always as much actually what I'm thinking about, though there will be probably plenty of that, but like the way I've been thinking about things, or not even thinking about, but like ways that I've been seeing things that seem to be revealing, or at least uh yeah, put opens up aspects of the world that I didn't see before I was seeing things that way. And so it's kind of easy to tell you what I'm thinking. I can just tell you what the thoughts are. This might be a little bit more picture painty, kind of telling you the way I've been seeing, or a way. Yeah. So like I said, I'm a little sick, so excuse me if I start sneezing or anything like that. But here goes. So mind the gaps. Why that? This idea of of relationship. Sure, we know about that. Probably think about romantic ones or friendships or your family. Um, then you also kind of have a relationship with other kinds of things, like with your job, you have a relationship with that. With your car, you might have a relationship with. Um, and it turns out kind of everything, actually. Even things that you don't really have a relationship with, you have a relationship of, you know, you're you're a certain spatial distance from it, you're certain temporal distance from it. You might think certain things about it, or it might be the lack of many of those things. But in some way, we kind of are related to everything, everyone else, everything that ever was. We have some relationship with it. Some of them are more relevant to us. Some of them, like your romantic partner, your family, your car, things like that. You kind of notice those because they matter for you in a way that your relationship with Napoleon's left big toe isn't. It doesn't have the same kind of draw on your attention as maybe your relationship with death. Um, but just this general insight that we're related to everything, and there's something, well, there's something significant of that about that isn't always or often or in some ways ever really fully appreciated in the way that it ought to be. And the reason I'm talking about this is, if you know me from circling or John Vervaeke or kind of any of these evolve would play more cultivation oriented spaces, we'll call it, you might be kind of familiar with this idea of this turn in philosophy that's happening around relational ontology. And ontology, if you don't know, just means the study of being. So being, you know, this sense of there's just goings-ons that we are participating in all the time. And the idea of a relational ontology, as opposed to what we've been in, which is a substance one, is that basically that all through the history of humans for the most part, or at least certain sections of it, especially in Western culture specifically, and I won't get too nuanced into the kind of historical details of that right now, but we've conceived of the world as a bunch of stuff, as things, as as individual units that relationships emerge between. So there's me, there's you, there's a relationship between us. There's my mug and this candle, relationship between them. You know, there's stuff, there's things. Stuff isn't exactly the right word, but for these purposes, it'll do. There's ones, there's individual entities, and then there's relationships between them. But that way of making sense of things has got us into lots of problems because a lot of things don't as easily fit into those categories. And if we think everything that is real has to be like that, then a lot of things kind of get left out. Like, for example, your love for your family. Is that in you? Is it in them? You might say, yeah, it's in me. It's a feeling. Not really. Love isn't really a feeling. Sometimes love makes you feel happy because someone you love got something good happen for them. Sometimes something bad happens for someone you love. Now you feel sad. A lot of feelings come with love. And so it exists in the relationship. And I'm not going to try to make an argument to prove that for you. There's, other people smarter than me can do that. I just gesture in that direction, and you can take it or leave it. But there's a lot of things that are kind of like that. Really simple example: this cup is graspable to me. So is that a property of the cup that it's graspable? No, dog can't grasp it. Other things can't grasp it. But it's also not my subjective belief that this cup is graspable, right? In the relationship between me and the cup, the graspability. And just give these examples to say there's a lot of things, basically all the most important things in our life, that are like this, that it kind of exists in that relational in-between space. And so the problem with thinking that all that exists are like individual units and relationships are kind of these secondary things that emerge out of that. Meaning in life, love, as I mentioned, friendship. Like, a lot of these things that seem to make life worth living for us. If we don't take seriously relationships, then they can lose reality. And you might say, what philosophical stance I take about ontology and all that, like that doesn't affect the realness of my friendships or my meaning. I would push back on that a little bit, but in some sense, it doesn't really matter what ontological claims you purport to make. A lot of our world, a lot of the philosophy that our world is sitting on, a lot of the ways our society and culture and language, especially language is a big one, are structured, presupposes that. And so whether or not you purport to believe it doesn't really matter. You live it. And it's kind of like a frame that you have on the world just given to you by your culture. You have a lot of those, by the way, that shapes what's real for you and what you see, what you experience the world as being. And turns out what you experience the world as being is what the world is to you, because that's all you got. So what do we do about that? Well, again, without going into the kind of philosophical rigor of this question, there's this idea of turning from a substance ontology to a relational ontology, which basically means that relation, pure relation, exists as primary, as a priori, as kind of the bottom. And then all the stuff, the individual things that are related, kind of come out of that. And if you're like, that doesn't make any fucking sense, like that, I don't know what. Exactly. We inherited a frame that is the exact opposite of that. And I don't expect that to just click right in just because I said do that. And you can try it on and imagine what that means a little bit. But it turns out this is actually the kind of thing that you have to practice. There are certain truths that actually can only be accessed through transformation, through actually comporting yourself to that reality and living in accordance with it, and kind of stretching out of your old ways and aspiring to see anew. There's a lot of truth that require you to change, to change your life, to change who you are. And substance ontology and like dualisms don't really lend very well to that. Um, so so the idea of the title of this, Mind the Gaps, is to start to point in that direction. And this is what I've been trying to do with my blog, with poetry, not as much with music, but hopefully I can start to bring it into that too. And in all of these dialogical practices I've been doing, like circling, like this idea of dialogos as, don't worry about the etymology and all that, but basically the idea of, by getting in deep relation with another person, by really connecting, by listening to each other, by hearing not just what the person says, but who they are, and by experiencing relation, by experiencing the relation between us as more real, and in some way, the thing that holds us both together, we actually start to tune in to the relational aspect of being. We're tuning into being. And a lot of things do that, but it's, really deep connective dialogue. Music, obviously, music is just what is music? It's not a cacophony of relations that pull us here and there. It's not any one note or any collection of notes, really, that does it. It's the relation between the note, right? It's the relation between the root and the major sevenths that holds you in suspense and wants resolve. And it's the relationship between the major seventh and the octave that, and if you're not a music person, those don't mean anything to you. It doesn't matter. You're experiencing it all the time. So music does that, dance, anything where we kind of get in a flow state with another person. We have this opportunity to lose ourselves as this individual. Hear that word, individed, and really experience ourselves as related. I was in one of these practices circling last night, and I was talking with some other people in the practice with me, and Guy Sangstock, the founder, and we were kind of just talking about this. And he gave this example of, you go to a dinner party and you feel bored. It was a boring dinner party. Here, just the way I said that right there. I feel bored, or it's a boring dinner party. So it's either the boredom's either in me, and it's my reaction to the dinner party, or the boring's in the dinner party, and I went there and inhabited. Well, okay, so hear that, right? As I start to say, I inhabited boredness. That's a little different. So the sense that, like, if I go to a boring dinner party, the causality, where the boredom comes from, I didn't do it. Maybe I have that feeling, but also there's something about the dinner party that evoked that feeling in me. But also, maybe everyone else is having a good time, and there is something about my disposition, my relationship to the dinner party, what it meant to me, why it mattered for me to be there, that had it be boring. And so there's something that's like, there's me, and there's the dinner party, and there's the host of the dinner party, all the other people there. And then there's boredom that kind of co-arises. And this might not immediately click in a super intelligible way, but I hope you can start to feel in what I'm talking about here. There's this sense that it is in between that basically everything that colors our reality as meaningful and affective, that has a, you know, something we like and something we don't like, there's value, and there's all of these things that pretty important to life that exist like that exist in between. And so with this series, I'm imploring you to mind the gaps. Mind them. Like, I mean, you need to get all technical, philosophical, but just like turn your attention when it's available to the in-between, to the ways that listening to me right now, there's a relationship. I'm talking to the void, kind of, but I also have some people in mind that might be listening to this. I have some people that I actually know in life. There's some idea of some potential future person I don't know listening to it. We have a relationship right now, and that is shaping the way I'm talking, the kinds of ways I'm explaining this. I'm not thinking about this, but it's shaping the frame that kind of sits in the background that shapes how I'm showing up. And so if you think there's not a reality to this, well, I'm talking, aren't I? And you're at least understanding, hopefully, some of the things that I'm saying. So there's a reality for you. And if you really understand it, it actually is going to change the way you pay attention to your life. It's going to change the way that you interact with people, with your friends, your relationships. It's going to change the ways that you notice a beautiful view, if you really start to inhabit it, that is. Or if you don't, maybe you get upset and you're like, this guy's a fucking idiot and he doesn't know what he's talking about. It's like, okay, well, it still affected you. And see what I'm starting to play with here? It's like stuff's going on in you. The way I'm talking is getting shaped. And it's the relationship that's doing a lot of that shaping on both sides. And you could say that I caused the way you might experience relationships differently. But also, you caused, at least my perspective of how you might be understanding me, how I'm talking. Who did it? Where'd that come from? And it's like, these aren't just my ideas. I read a bunch of books. I listened to other people. I talked to people. So did they cause it? But where'd they get it from? And what's this it? Like, I'm pointing to an it that I'm generally calling relationality. These gaps, this in-between space that I'm positing is primary to the stuff that is related on the outsides of the gaps. And I'm saying it's kind of the ground of being, and it's what kind of everything comes out of. And just by listening to me, something that was in the background, however much, is foregrounded. And there's a way that we're doing this all the time. We're foregrounding backgrounds. We're moving this. I don't have glasses, so I can't give a good example, but I can, look through them or take them off and look at them. And the Vervaekeism right there. So anyways, it's probably getting a little long at this point, but I just wanted to kind of kick off by saying some stuff about how being hangs together. Cool, thanks.